Morning. Welcome to regular council meeting for Thursday, March 27th, 2025 for the Corporation of the Township of Minden Hills. Before I start, I'd like to note that yesterday at our county council meeting, Liz Danielson, who's county councilor and a deputy warden, and also the mayor of Algonquin Highlands, had a medical emergency. Um, the latest information that I have is that she is receiving treatment, and all we can really do here is to offer our thoughts and prayers to her and her family and her friends who are all affected by this event. In review of today's agenda, here there are three public meetings regarding zoning bylaw amendments. Madam Clerk, please proceed with a roll call to confirm council attendance.
Counselor Sisson,
Present.
Counselor Saney,
Present.
Counselor McKelvey,
Present.
Counselor Johannesson,
Present.
Counselor Ingram,
Present.
Deputy Marshall,
Present.
Mayor Carter.
Present. We respectfully acknowledge the Township of Minden Hills is located on Treaty 20 Michisagi territory and in the traditional territory of the Michisagi and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations, which are Curve Lake, Rama, Hiawatha, Alderville, Scugog Island, Beausoleil, and Georgina Island First Nations. We acknowledge the shared presence of Indigenous nations throughout the area and recognize its original indigenous inhabitants as the stewards of its lands and waters since time immemorial. I call this meeting to order at 9:01 a.m. Madam Clerk, please proceed with reading the resolution for the approval of the agenda.
Moved by Deputy Marshall, seconded by Counselor McKelvey. Be it resolved that the March 27th, 2025 regular council meeting agenda be approved as circulated.
All those in favor? That is carried. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we will move on to the public meetings. So we need a resolution to adjourn the regular meeting. Madam Clerk, please proceed with reading the resolution.
Moved by Counselor McKelvey, seconded by Deputy Marshall, that council adjourn its regular meeting at 9:02 a.m. to proceed into public meetings regarding the following: Report 2504, Planning, Application for Zoning Bylaw Amendment, PLZBA 2024071, Carlton. Report 2516, Planning, Application for Zoning Bylaw Amendment, PLZBA 2025001, Walter. And Report 2517, Planning Application for Zoning Bylaw Amendment, PLZBA 2024077, Piero.
Okay, I call this meeting to order at 9:03 a.m. Today, there are three public meetings held by council under Section 34 of the Planning Act, being for applications PLZBA 2024071, PLZBA 2024077, and PLZBA 2025001. These public meetings are an opportunity to present to council and the public the details and background to the proposed amendments and to receive comments from the public and agencies before a council decision is made. If a person would otherwise have an ability to appeal the decision of council to the Ontario Land Tribunal, but the person does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions before the bylaw is passed, the person is not entitled to appeal the decision. So, calling the first of our public meetings to order at 9:04 a.m. Public meeting held by council under Section 34 of the Planning Act. This public meeting is declared open and is to consider a zoning bylaw amendment for part of Lot 31, Concession 6 in the geographic township of Minden, located at 1433 Wigamog Road. Would the planning department please summarize the purpose and effect of the proposed bylaw and provide any additional information and correspondence relevant to the application?
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and Council. Through Mr. Mayor, the purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment application is to fulfill a condition of consent application H-044-24 which will sever a portion of the subject lands known as 1433 Wigamog Road for a lot addition to the adjacent lot that is located at 1459 Wigamog Road. The portion of the property subject to the rezoning is currently designated rural in the township official plan and is zoned rural in the township zoning bylaw, whereas the benefiting lands at 1459 Wigamog Road are currently zoned rural residential. The zoning bylaw amendment would therefore serve to rezone the severed parcel of the consent application to rural residential in order to increase conformity to the provisions of the township zoning bylaw and to achieve a uniform zoning on the resulting enlarged benefiting lot. The original public meeting scheduled for February 13th was unfortunately canceled due to inclement weather. Notice of today's public meeting was recirculated on March 6th in accordance with the Planning Act. To date, we've received no written comments from members of the public. We did receive comments from the County of Halliburton on January 23rd, and those indicated no concern with the application.
Mike Cicero, if you have any comments?
No, I'm just here just for any questions. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Members of the public will now have an opportunity to provide their comments. We will start with attendees participating electronically and then proceed with members of the public attending in person. Do we have any electronic attendees?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, there are no electronic attendees for this meeting.
Okay. And do we have any members of the public who wish to speak to this?
May I ask if there's any members of the public to please raise your hand if you wish to speak to this particular application?
Seeing none. Okay, are there any questions or comments from council to the applicants, the planner, or any persons who have made presentations? Seeing none. As a result of these proceedings, does the planning department have any recommendations or comments that you wish to bring to the attention of council?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the staff report recommended that council receive report 2504 as information and further that bylaw 25-27 being a bylaw to approve a zoning bylaw amendment for the land subject to PLZBA 2024-071 be referred to the bylaw section of the agenda for hopeful approval.
Okay, if there are no further questions, this completes the public meeting process. Anyone wishing to obtain notice of the decision may do so by making a written submission requesting such to the township's clerk. I now declare this portion of the public meeting closed at 9:08 a.m. Moving on, call this meeting to order at 9:08 a.m. This is a public meeting held by council under Section 34 of the Planning Act. This public meeting is declared open and is to consider a zoning bylaw amendment for Part Lot 10, Concession A, in the geographic township of Minden, having civic address 1940 Scotch Line Road East. Would the planning department please summarize the purpose and effect of the proposed bylaw and provide any additional information and correspondence relevant to the application?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the purpose of the application is to implement site-specific zoning to allow for development of the lot. The property is currently vacant, save and except for the septic well and an entrance. And the property owner is seeking to construct a new two-story dwelling with attached decks. However, based on current zoning schedules, the subject property is zoned rural as well as hazard land in the township zoning bylaw. And so there is currently not enough area located to locate the house entirely within the rural zone. It would need to be partially within the hazard land zone, which does not permit residential uses. Therefore, a zoning bylaw amendment is required in order to accommodate a house on the property. The provincial planning statement and both the township and county official plans identify the subject lands as settlement area. The settlement areas are to be a focus of growth and residential uses are encouraged. The county official plan does identify the subject property as being within 500 meters of the landfill on Scotch Line Road. There are policies with respect to this. However, these are related more so when planning approvals are needed to permit a use, whereas the township official plan does permit residential uses on the property. Within the township official plan, the property is further designated as residential. Residential designation permits a variety of densities, which does include single detached dwellings, and which is reflective of the surrounding lot development. With respect to natural hazards on or around the subject lands, there is a policy direction amongst both provincial and local planning documents, which impacts the property. More specifically, the subject lands have been identified within the hazard land overlay in the township official plan, and as well are partially zoned hazard land in the township zoning bylaw. The hazard land overlay is intended to primarily identify potential flooding hazards, but may also include steep slopes, erosion, unstable bedrock, and unstable soils. In the case of the subject property, potential flooding as well as impacts from a steep slope, such as stability and erosion, were identified as potential concerns. Development in accordance with the underlying designation, so in this case residential, is permitted subject to policies of section 2.7.5 of the official plan. A site suitability report prepared by Duke Engineering did confirm that with mitigation that the development could proceed in accordance to those policies. The report found that flooding potential was limited and that floodproofing measures could be utilized to mitigate and otherwise protect from flood risk. The report further indicated that setbacks from the top of slope would need to be incorporated to ensure the stability of the slope and prevent erosion. The dwelling as proposed has an increased setback from the westerly side lot line, which is impacted by the steep slope, and Duke Engineering has confirmed that the development can proceed as proposed. The zoning bylaw amendment will therefore zone the property primarily to hamlet residential exception 3 with site-specific provisions to incorporate both the floodproofing measures as well as setback requirements to the top of slope to ensure safe development. The sloped area of the property will continue to be zoned hazard land in order to protect both the slope feature and ensure public safety by guiding development on the subject property outside of the hazard. With the provisions that have been included in the amendment, staff are in support of the development. Notice of today's public meeting was circulated on March 6th in accordance with the Planning Act. We've received no written comments from members of the public. The County of Haliburton did provide comments March 6th as well and confirmed having no concerns with the application.
Okay, does the applicant have a presentation or wish to make comments? Please state your name and address to make this official.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. My name is Melissa Markham, Melissa Markham Planning, 1025 Rebecca Lane, Huntsville, Ontario, P1H2J6. The application before you today is to permit the construction of a dwelling and to correct an error in the township hazard land mapping on the subject lands. As staff provided, the application seeks to amend the Minden Urban Area Schedule 21 to correct an error in the township mapping and reflect the findings of the site suitability report, as you heard was prepared by Duke Engineering. This was also further peer reviewed by Tatum with the township overseeing that. The draft bylaw further seeks to zone the subject lands to a more appropriate hamlet residential zone. This will be in keeping with the surrounding properties. The bylaw proposes to recognize the lot area and apply site-specific provisions to site the dwelling appropriately on the subject lands. Further, the area of the lands where slope exists are to remain in the hazard zone. The proposed development has regard for matters of provincial interest. The application seeks to correct the township bylaw mapping by accurately depicting the boundaries of the identified hazard lands as submitted through the site suitability report. The proposed development protects these features and has been located outside any constraints. The development makes efficient use of existing transportation. Proposed development in a settlement area is orderly development of the community. The development represents an efficient use of land that will provide additional housing and is appropriate located in a settlement area where growth and development is to be directed. The site suitability report provides that public health and safety will be protected. As staff provided, the PPS directs development to settlement areas, which is where the lands are located. The development will provide for the development of a vacant lot within an already developed area. The scale of development is appropriate, and further, the development will direct the dwelling outside of hazardous lands. The site suitability report provides that development will be outside of these areas in accordance with the proposed bylaw. The application conforms with the County of Halliburton official plan. No amendment to this official plan is required to correct a mapping error in the township zoning bylaw. The incorporation of the recommendations in the submitted site suitability report will conform with the township official plan, and the application for the site-specific amendment for the Hamlet Residential Exception 3 zone does include the provisions as required by the site suitability report. We are in agreement with the staff report as presented today, and we're here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Members of the public now have an opportunity to provide their comments. We'll start with attendees participating electronically and then proceed with members of the public attending in person. Right.
There are no attendees joining electronically.
Anybody in person?
May I have members of the public please raise their hand if they wish to come forward and make comment?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Kind of got away from this. So, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and council members, back several years ago, I was on a committee of adjustment. We addressed this property several times, visited several times. Actually, we had meetings January 30th, 23, September 25th, and October 30th. And we did visit the property. I understand that council can't visit properties, but if you did visit it, you'd find that there's quite a slope down to the creek. And by your maps, Schedule 21, it shows the hazard land, and there's several other properties that are in this hazard land that there seem to be no concern about, with buildings on them and some vacant. And I'm just wondering, at our meeting, October 30th, 23, it was the committee's recommendation in approving this for a building that the zoning be corrected prior to a building permit being submitted, but that was not heard by the secretary, whoever took notes. So I'd like to just mention that we didn't approve it without concern for the hazard land. We were concerned, but we felt that the township should correct the zoning, as it was no fault of the property owners. And that's just, I just wanted to mention that, sir. Matt.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members of the public? Yes? No? You'll have to state your name, please. Have to be into the microphone because people watching can't hear you.
My name is Marilyn Lesbrons. I used to be on the Committee of Adjustment. I'm here because I believe that the initial decision was wrong. The property is at least 32 feet above the creek that is supposed to be hazard land. And there are 3 homes on the bottom, on the other side of the creek, that have never flooded. Furthermore, if the water rose that high, the town would be gone. There's a mistake here in calling it a hazard land. I sent a letter to the mayor giving my opinions in advance, because in my business, when I was working, that's what you do. You tell the truth and give in advance. Obviously, that was a mistake. Um, um, the other thing to remember is he was given, a permit to put a septic tank in, and he had the town made him do a bigger, uh, driveway over the ditch, not telling him that he'd never be able to build there. Furthermore, since this has all started, there's been a huge um, change to the road, and the culvert underneath is at least 3 times as big as it was when Mr. Walters bought the property. I think that he should get his permit, and those are my
Okay, those are your comments.
opinions.
So just make clear, you support the ability to build on this.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you very
Oh,
much.
one more thing.
Sure.
What started for me was I was at a horticultural meeting, and beside me, 2 ladies were talking about Mr. Walters' property. And they said, well, I hope he doesn't get it, because around the corner where he lives, he's got all that equipment, and nobody in our community wants all that equipment around the street.
Okay.
Is
Thank you.
that the reason that he's not getting an opinion?
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the public? Okay. Okay, are there any comments or questions from council? Councilor McKelvey.
As far as the rezoning application, I'm in favor of it. That some of the background was, a minor variance won't override a hazard land zoning. So we're trying to correct this, and this is now doing that, and it will allow for the development on the properties. I have no objections.
I just have a question, I guess maybe of the planner, one of the planners here. So through all this, it was mentioned how, the way that house would be built and all that, it would be protected from any flooding or so on and so forth. But this is getting to be a somewhat, not a really congested area, but somewhat congested area. Is there any danger to adjacent properties, or would the mitigation that you're putting into place to protect this house protect the adjacent properties also?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I can start with answering that question and then allow the agent to answer if she has anything further. I think that the hazardous area is to the west of this property. And then there's quite a bit of a gap between the next potentially developed property, which is,
Right.
is currently vacant. I think there's enough spatial distance between them that the development on this property really won't have any impact to surrounding lands. It's really just about making this particular lot appropriate for development, but I'll allow the agent to add it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So in order to add to what your planner has provided, the site suitability report was to address the hazard lands which are located to the rear of the property. There was no concern that was raised through the report with regards to any surrounding neighbors or surrounding properties. At this point, through the site suitability report, it did mention that the lands are adjacent to a small water course with a large section of the lot which was level, and the steep drop to the creek on the west side of the lot is what's being looked at through this report, as that's where the creek and the slope are located. The driveway was graded, building and septic envelope were staked out, and they also did look at the culvert along the road and any potential for flooding on the property. But no, nothing was raised through the or through the site suitability report or the peer review that was done by the township with regards to surrounding properties. It was solely to address that water course.
Okay, that's fine. Are there any other questions from council? Seeing none, as a result of these proceedings, does the planning department have any recommendations or comments that you wish to bring to the attention of council?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the staff report recommended that council receive report 25-16 as information, and also that bylaw 25-33 being a bylaw to approve a zoning bylaw amendment for the land subject of PLZBA 2025-001 be referred to the bylaw section of the agenda.
There are no further questions. This completes the public meeting process. Anyone wishing to obtain notice of the decision may do so by making a written submission requesting such to the township's clerk. I now declare this portion of the public meeting closed at 9:26 a.m. Moving to, excuse me. Moving on to the third public meeting. I call this public meeting to order at 9:26 a.m. This is a public meeting held by council under section 34 of the Planning Act. This public meeting is declared open and is to consider a zoning bylaw amendment for part lot 19, concession 11, geographic township of Lutterworth, having municipal address 1094 Forsters Road and located on Gull Lake. Would the planning department please summarize the purpose and effect of the proposed bylaw and provide any additional information and correspondence relevant to the application?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of the application is to implement site-specific zoning to allow for the redevelopment of the lot. The property is developed in the form of a single-story cottage with an attached waterfront deck, as well as a boathouse and a dock. The property owners are proposing to tear down the dwelling and the deck to construct a new dwelling and attached deck to be located on the same footprint. However, the height would increase to allow for a walkout basement and upper half story, and the footprint would expand to allow for a screened porch with ground level storage. Expansions in height or size of any development within 15 meters or 50 feet of the high water mark of a lake are not permitted, and as such, a zoning bylaw amendment was required to permit the redevelopment. Under the policies of the provincial planning statement, the subject property is defined as rural lands. The subject property is also designated rural land in the County of Haliburton official plan. Policies of both these documents permit residential and resource-based recreational uses, which are already established on the subject property. Development is to be compatible with the rural landscape sustained by rural service levels and to have consideration for the environment and natural features. The property already being established is part of the surrounding character and will otherwise not impact current uses or service levels. The subject property is designated waterfront on Schedule A of the township's official plan, with Gull Lake being identified as a moderately sensitive lake on Schedule B. Maintaining a naturalized shoreline frontage has four primary goals under the direction of the official plan, being to ensure protection of habitat, prevent erosion, maintain shoreline character, and minimize visual impacts of development. Based on staff review and as outlined in the report, these goals are either being met through the zoning bylaw amendment or can otherwise be mitigated through site plan approval. A slope inspection was completed by Soil Engineers Limited to support the application, which concluded the site to be suitable for the expanded development. There were certain recommendations, which included requirements for geotechnical inspection as part of that report, which again can be incorporated with site plan approval to ensure the development proceeds in accordance with the official plan. The subject property is zoned shoreline residential zone in the township zoning bylaw. Permitted uses in the shoreline residential zone include single detached dwellings. The applicants made a concerted effort, in staff's opinion, to prepare a development plan for the property that recognizes the existing constraints. They maintained requirements for lateral width and considered the appropriate lot coverage based on what we'd consider to be the functional part of the property rather than the total lot area. As alternative locations for the dwelling are essentially extinguished due to the terrain and the shallow depth of the lot south of the road, recognizing the setbacks in the amendment while ensuring appropriate limitations to expanded development is considered appropriate, and staff support the amendment. Notice of today's public meeting was circulated on March 6th in accordance with the Planning Act. We did receive one set of written comments from John and Lori Reed, which state as follows. We are in full support of this application as it will further enhance the upgrading and proper development of the Gull Lake waterfront and create employment opportunities for local trades. The County of Haliburton provided comments dated March 6th, which did not indicate any concerns with the application, but they did suggest consultation with the county, subject to them being approved for the amendment in order to ensure compliance with the shoreline preservation bylaw.
Thank you. Does the applicant have a presentation or wish to make any comments?
I believe they're joining online, Mr. Mayor, but I'm not sure if they want to add anything.
I'm not sure if you can hear me. We have no
Yes, we
comment.
can hear you.
No comments from our end.
Okay. Member of the public will now have an opportunity to provide their comments. We'll start with attendees participating electronically and then proceed with members of the public attending in person. Are there anybody attending electronically?
There are no attendees attending electronically.
Okay. Is there any member of the public attending in person wishes to comment?
Are there any members of the public that wish to comment on this application?
Seeing none. Are there any questions from council to the applicants, the planner, any person who's made presentations? Councilor McKelvey.
I'm still trying to figure out if this screened porch seems to be, and storage underneath it isn't being taken into consideration in the air. Like I'm struggling with the size. We're saying that it doesn't expand what's there now, but if you take that into case, I think it does. So
Through the mayor, sorry, just to clarify, so it doesn't expand what we would define as the dwelling footprint. Screened porches are considered more similarly to decks. It cannot be walled in or with windows or insulated. It has to be legitimately screened, and it will be sitting on top of the deck. So it increases their outdoor living space, but it's not considered part of the dwelling unit itself. So it does expand the footprint, but it's not attributed to the dwelling footprint.
Okay. Councilor McKelvey.
but the storage underneath does.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so it's storage again under the deck. It's not going to be part of the dwelling where the walkout basement will be. It is intended somewhat similar to a shed, but will be underneath the deck.
Councilor McKelvey.
On the site plan, Amanda, it shows a building down at the lake. Sorry, I'm gonna have to blow this up because it's very small. But it says 1-story frame building.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's the boathouse.
And that's legal?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's currently existing. It's been there for quite some time.
And they purchased their shoreline road allowance?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, they owned, I can confirm that based on the survey, they own to the shoreline. I don't know where exactly the shore road allowance is in relation to this property, but they own to the shoreline and have prior to this application.
Okay. As a result of these proceedings, does the planning department have any recommendations or comments that you wish to bring to the attention of council?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the staff report recommended that council receive report 25-17 as information, and also that bylaw 25-34 being a bylaw to approve zoning bylaw amendment for the subject lands of PL ZBA 2024-077 be referred to the bylaw section of the agenda.
If there are no further questions, this completes the public meeting process. Anyone wishing to obtain the notice of the decision may do so by making a written submission requesting such to the township's clerk. I now declare this portion of the public meeting closed at 9:34 a.m. Madam Clerk, could you read the resolution to bring us back to our regular meeting?
Moved by Counselor Sisson, seconded by Counselor McKelvey, that council adjourn its public meetings and resumes its regular council meeting at 9:35 a.m.
All those in favor? That is carried. No delegations, adoption of minutes, payment of accounts. Any comments or questions? Please read the resolution. No. Councilor McKelvey?
Sorry, I was just trying to find it, but there was we seem to be spending a lot of money on fire rescue, water rescue equipment. I just wonder if that's finished, or I'm assuming this has been, we've been allowing water rescue, but didn't have the proper suits, or.
Through the chair, I'll let the fire chief answer that question.
Through the mayor, to Councilor McKelvey, yes, we had an inadequate amount of ice rescue equipment. And so I've been slowly trying to increase that amount of equipment.
Councilor McKelvey?
My other question was also with regard to the fire department, so crest reflective stripes, fender decal, like $3,300. Is that for one of the new vehicles?
Yes, through the mayor, that is for the new truck that was just put into service, yes.
Go ahead.
My other question isn't fire related, but it's again, I bring this up a lot, so I'll bring it up another time. We're paying $100 a month for rodent control at the Laughlin Community Center. We're paying for Wi-Fi at the Laughlin Community Center. And I just wonder if we really want to continue with those expenditures.
Well, as I understood it, the Laughlin, the Wi-Fi was used by people who could go to the parking lot and use the.
That's correct.
the
But we
Wi-Fi.
had a report from our director showing that it was rarely used. There was a little blip in July of one year. So I think that because Laughlin area is getting better service now, that's not necessary.
Okay, I guess. Sorry, Councilor Saney?
Yeah, I'm not prepared to take away that service at this time, mostly because it's very expensive to have Wi-Fi to your home, and a lot of people cannot afford that. So I do think it is still being used. So I'd want to be very clear, if there is nobody using it, that's one thing. But not everybody can afford Wi-Fi in their home, and this is a community access point for everybody and for safety, as well as any other kinds of student work that is being done. There's all sorts of reasons to have public Wi-Fi in various areas to our rural areas. So I would support keeping this going for a while. Thank you.
I think we should probably keep it going at least through the summer too, and let's see how it's used through the summer, and then maybe our community services group can come back in the early fall and say, and we'll see if it actually has been used. To make a decision then. Deputy Mayor Shell?
Shouldn't our IT be able to tell us how much bandwidth has been used?
Sure.
Yeah, just, that might just be helpful. That's
Yeah,
all I'm saying.
yeah.
Yeah, just to give us an idea.
We,
Counselor
we
McDowell.
had that report from Candace and she did get the information from the county IT.
Right, it was very, it was not necessarily used that much, and
No,
I guess I'm saying is that let's go through the summer and see what it.
Get an
what it is,
update on
And
those.
get an update, and make a decision in the fall.
Through the chair, we'll note that and then come back to council with
Yeah.
something.
Counselor Sani?
And when we get that report too, if we decide to take it down, I think there needs to be some public notice there that says when and how that
Sure.
it will be removed. So the public who are using it are aware and can make alternative plans if necessary. Thanks.
Sure. Okay. All right, please read the resolution.
Moved by Councillor McKelvey, seconded by Councillor Sisson, be it resolved that the accounts in the amount of $3,319,393.12 be approved for payment.
All those in favor? That is carried. Going on to the mayor's report. We've made it this far and the land is still mostly dry and I don't want to jinx it. But so far we've had a fairly decent freshet that has not caused us lots of problems, and we can thank whomever for that. But it is still very, very dangerous to be near the waters, particularly in the rivers, because there's lots of water going through, so be extremely careful around that. We're now in a federal election because we just can't get enough of elections around here. So that'll be taking up much of the month of March and April. I'm sure there'll be notices that'll be coming out to all as to when early voting will take place and where it will take place and so on. And aside from that, I have nothing to really report other than enjoy spring, get those flowers and vegetables planted soon, and let's hope we move into a wonderful summer. Councillor Sani, Roma Board.
Thank you. The Roma Board hasn't met since our last meeting, so I have nothing new to report, but I hopefully will at our next one. Thank you.
Perfect. Correspondence, we had a Town of Bradford West Willambury landlord tenant reforms. Any comments or questions? I think most of the issues that were brought up there are general issues that have been brought up many times, and I see we have now a new minister for municipal affairs and housing, and a new, I can't remember what they call it, assistant minister for or associate or assistant minister for who's going to look for at housing. So hopefully we will be able to make progress there. Department reports.
Oh, we just have to receive it as
Oh,
info.
yes, sorry.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Sisson, seconded by Councillor McKelvey, that council receives correspondence and communication item 11.1 as information.
All those in favor? That is carried. Mr. Timmons, tell us about the wonderful world of public works.
Morning, council. Thank you, Mayor Carter. Before you have monthly report, it was pretty well operations as normal, with maybe the highlight being the RFP for the Scotchline Transfer Station closed. We received a couple bids and we're in the process of evaluating those, and we'll have a report for council coming up as soon as we can get that before you. I did want to make a point to build further on Mayor Carter's comments just about water levels and just sort of what the department is doing, what the township is hearing. As Mayor Carter alluded to, overall, we're in pretty decent shape right now. The colder weather has helped us despite not being very popular. The one thing to pay attention to, Gull River's doing fairly well. Downstream from us is doing fairly well. A little bit more stressful out in Irondale River and Burnt River are higher and a little bit more of a concern. We've been in contact with a few residents out there. So far, again, knock on wood, we're doing okay, but we're keeping an eye on that closely. This weekend, we just had a meeting with Environment Canada. And essentially, true to any weather report, we're either going to get a lot of snow, a lot of rain, or a lot of freezing rain. And they can't tell us any better than that. So this weekend, obviously, we are, our roads department will be ready and vigilant, and whatever comes our way, we'll be working on that. We do have all our sandbagging equipment is ready to go if needed. And we don't think we're there yet, but we are prepared if it does go in that direction. Not much else to this monthly report. If there are any questions, I'm happy to discuss.
Deputy Mayor Shelf.
I apologize if it's happened since I've paid attention, but the snowmobile bridge was used a couple weeks ago. You said you were gonna get it pulled.
Yeah, through the chair, the water's been too high. We had it scheduled. We need to wait for it to go down a little bit. But the good news is we're not seeing any ice chunks. That's the real concern, is that we get an ice dam. So a little less concerned about that. But yeah, the water's been pretty high.
Councillor Ingram.
Through the chair, Mike, I just want to thank you and your staff on behalf of the people on Windover. We had water coming out on the road on last Sunday. They not only arrived there less than half an hour after I talked to Mike, but they cleaned the entire ditch system from the top of the road down, which eliminated the entire problem for the rest of spring. I would add, though, that ditches are probably full right now as well. I don't know, so stay out of the ditches as well. But thank you for that. I appreciate it. It's great work.
Much appreciated. I'll make sure our staff's aware. Thank you.
Was it just blocked from debris and ice? All right, whitewater canoeing. Councillor McKelvey.
Just want to thank the roads crew in advance of the weekend coming ahead, because once again, they're going to lose another weekend of their own family time. And, much appreciated. I also have another question. Is the Highway 35 construction is showing as starting? What's happening on the Red Umbrella culvert?
Through the chair, I've been working with the CAO on this, and we should be able to bring some information back. We've been back and forth a little bit with the MTO engineers, and we're working on it. We'll bring some more. Once she's back, I will bombard her with that one. When she's back from her vacation. Yeah.
So Highway 35, when is most of that work gonna take place? Do we know?
Yeah, through the chair, through the Mayor Carter, sooner than later, it'll probably get going. As we're seeing, they're already doing some tree removal. It'll be your typical, probably once spring truly hits, and then through the summer, we'll probably see the majority of that project. Similar to last year, they essentially, they were right into the fall with some of their ditching work, and that's what I expect to see.
So do we expect to see a lot more traffic on Bob Cajun Road?
Through the chair, similar to last year, I don't think we saw a really big, but some people were the locals were certainly that know the route will certainly take that.
Yeah. Councillor Sisson.
Mike, I just wanted to bring your attention again. We've got some people putting rocks and that in the river down on Spring Valley Road. I understand the house is going up for sale soon. That person that done that, so we should maybe get on that and see if we can get that cleaned up. I know you said you turned it over to county, but obviously nothing's been done, so.
Yeah, through the chair, I will follow up.
Thank
I
you.
will. Yeah, absolutely.
What's he doing? Just dump it? Oh, yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Please read the resolution.
Moved by Councillor McKelvey, seconded by Councillor Sisson, that council receives report 2503 Public Works, February monthly activity report for information.
All those in favor? That is carried. Moving on to surplus equipment.
Thank you, Mayor Carter. This one again is fairly straightforward. I know this council's seen similar reports in the past. I would like to maybe make a bit of a change in the recommendation. We've actually had another unit, one of our trucks has started to show some concerning issues just this past week. So if council would be on board, I think if we could deem it surplus with a little discretion on our side, just to make sure. I don't want to go and do something like this is just some really fresh information on this other truck. I don't want to make a commitment to do something silly that we're going to regret. So if there can just, deemed surplus with discretion from the department, should it be that way, it just saves me coming back. If council's okay with that.
Any questions? Councilor McKelvey?
Yeah, no questions there. I mean, that's fine. We can make it some discretionary. We certainly don't want to lose a good spare if we're having a problem. All I ask is that if we get to the point staff wants to put this up for sale, it would go on Gov Deals, which is fine, but I want the resolution actually to commit to advertising on our website and our Facebook, social media, because there's lots of people in this community that would like to buy this truck, but they don't know, or they don't sit on Gov Deals to watch every day. And that was supposed to happen last time and it didn't. So could we add that to the resolution?
Any issues?
Not
Okay.
on my end.
All right. We'll add that to the resolution. Any other questions? Madam Clerk, you read the amended resolution.
I'll just be a second.
Okay.
So, I've revised the motion. The council directs staff to sell unit 141, 2015 Western Star tandem with plow equipment on Gov Deals and Township website and other social media platforms, and to use their discretion on when to sell. And that council directs staff to place the proceeds from the sale of the surplus equipment in the Public Works Capital Reserve for future expenditures.
Councilor McKelvey?
It's not council's discretion. I believe it should be the Public Works Director's discretion as to
I have
when.
staff's discretion. Sorry, did I say council's discretion?
Oh, I thought you said,
I thought I said staff's discretion. So I can say that council directs staff to use their discretion to sell the unit 141.
Sure.
Is that okay? Okay.
Yep.
So the amendment, Counselor Sisson and Counselor McKelvey, are you comfortable with that? Okay. Moved by Counselor Sisson, seconded by Counselor McKelvey. That council receives report 2504, Public Works Roads Surplus Equipment as information, and that council approves unit 141, 2015 Western Star tandem with plow equipment as surplus, and that council directs staff to use their discretion to sell unit 141, 2015 Western Star tandem with plow equipment on Gov Deals and the township website and other social media platforms, and that council directs staff to place the proceeds from the sale of the surplus equipment in the Public Works Capital Reserve for future expenditures.
All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Mr. Timmons? our Director of Community Services. Oh, and then. Oh. Comma.
Good morning, Mayor and councilors. So through you, Mr. Mayor, I have the monthly report. So this is including January and February. For the ice skating harness with my weekly communications, I have found out this week that the pulley has been finally completed. It is en route from the company to the lift gates, so they should have arrival by the end of next week. And then our install date is Tuesday, May 27th. So this has been communicated with the figure skating club, and the harness is to be in place for the summer training session. Yay. I'm pretty sure that gentleman will be very happy not to have my weekly calls. Recreation programming continued through. We finished our one registered program the end of March. We'll be moving into our next children and youth register program. We had a very successful March break camp in coordination working with the cultural center as well as our rec department. So we had 16 full day participants. So that means they were registered for Monday to Friday. And then we had open spots for just single days, and those spots were full. We did do a new program where we had Zoo to You come on the Monday, and we included the community in this as well. So we had 20 participants as well as our 19 campers. It was very successful. So something that we're looking at expanding in the future. It was a great response from the community, where we actually had people from Bracebridge drive to take in. To going from there, the cultural center, they running their programs, did a lot of work in February with the Archer Stover Public School and their art display. From there, moving into the next exhibit that was set up March 21st. And we are working through our volunteer recruitment, as well as we've posted for our summer cultural parks and recreation students with really great interest. Any further questions?
Okay. Questions, Councilor McKelvey?
The Zoo to You thing filled up really fast. I know there was people on a waiting list that were taxpayers. Your comment, people came from Bracebridge, made me flinch, only because the taxpayers in Minden Hills are paying for that. So I'm questioning if we don't need a two-tier cost here for participants.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor McAlvey, so the pre-registration, people paid to attend.
I realize
that to it. We don't have in our fees and charges for a resident, non-resident, but that's something I can look into.
That's what I'm asking. Do we want consideration given to something like that, or taxpayers, residents given first choice to?
Well, I think we should see how it goes and see how many of these people show up, if it's consistent or not. I wouldn't be against doing that. But I'd like to get a little more data.
Yeah, and through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor McAlvey, we only ran one session of it because we didn't know what the upkeep, what the interest would be. So we stayed in a certain package, so we have room to move to different packages as well as give multiple offerings where we could kind of designate.
Any other questions? Yes, Councilor Saney.
Thank you. Yes, I just want to give a shout out to how progressive our programs are at the Cultural Center and the kind of work that goes into it sometimes isn't shown on a report. It's Robert, for example, has done incredible research on keeping up on what themes are happening that particular month, getting community groups together, having discussions, getting the youth hub involved and using the Welch room. I mean, there's so much going on there that the black and white reports don't highlight it. So I'd like to just give a shout out to the staff there and all of them, and Shannon, and the work and all the volunteers and part-time staff that have have really made that work. I went to one of the exhibits, I think it was last weekend, and it was standing room only for the exhibit, and the place was just packed. So, and in thinking of that as well, at some point in time, maybe we could consider a sign on Deep Bay Road that points to the cultural center with what the exhibits are or something like that. So it's just something that we could start to highlight what's going on in our community, coming in Deep Bay Road or coming in on Bob Cajun. It's terrific, and it's great to see this kind of programming just increasing, and the public interest is growing as I know my counselor next to me will agree. It's been very exciting to see. Thank you.
I was going to comment as well, not necessarily on the cultural center, but all of the recreation programs that are being held at the community center. The community absolutely loves them, and it's nice to see that they're being so well attended as well, but that's good job for that.
I think one of the initiatives started at the county, but will be coming down to the municipal level is on our mat taxes. And one of the things on one of the proposals for the usage of the mat taxes, because they're somewhat prescribed as to what you can do with it, was signage. And so then we might be able to do that. I mean, I think we have a number of things within the community that are maybe underutilized because nobody really knows about them. And so signage would probably be helpful. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, please read the resolution.
Moved by Counselor McKelvey, seconded by Counselor Sisson, that report 2508, Community Services Department Activity Report for the months of January and February 2025 be received for information.
All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We'll take a break till 10:15. Okay, welcome back. We start with Fire Chief.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have a lot to add to the January report here, other than I will thank Councillor Sisson for pointing out the math was wrong on our front page here. The number of calls by category doesn't add up to the number of calls at the bottom there, but I can assure council that we did run 38 calls for the month of January. There were a number that were unclassified as for our normal categories here. And I would highlight that January was more than double our normal number of calls for the month of January historically. The other thing I'd like to highlight that wasn't in the report was that towards the end of January, we did host here in Minden Hills a course put on by the Ontario Association of Fire Chiefs for the Fleet Signing Authority. I completed that course and I am now, I have signing authority to issue DZ licenses through the MTO for our firefighters once they complete the required training. That will be run through the Ontario Association of Fire Chiefs as well, and I have that signing authority through them. Other than that, happy to take any questions on the January report.
Councillor Ingram.
Through the chair, you had a busy January. 19 medical calls. It seems to me that half of your work is medical calls. Doesn't matter what month it is. It's interesting. Ice and water, we haven't had any of them in a while. I see you had 5 in January. You just putting that up for all the snow we're getting. There's more people out in the trails and.
Yeah, through the chair. Yes, I think part of the issue was we had so much snow that the ice did not form properly. And so, yes, a lot of sledders were going across the lakes and running into issues. And I will add too, not all 5 were legitimate calls, but yes, we did do a number of them. Yes.
It wasn't a question. It's just that while we have you there, just to remind the public that as of April 1st, there is no daytime burning.
Yes, that we will be updating the sign out front of the fire hall, as well as the township social media will also be putting that message out, I believe, starting Monday or Tuesday of next week.
What's your take on this new 911 system that's going in? How do you think it'll affect you?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, at this point, nobody really knows, is my answer. It may reduce the number of calls that we get for medical calls, to further to Councillor Ingram's point, but it may increase the amount of time that we're on scene for medical calls. But it is a new system province-wide, and there isn't really any hard data yet to suggest how it will change. But short answer, we just don't know.
Okay. Any other questions? Sorry, was that January and February?
That's
combined?
just January. Yeah.
Okay. Let's
Okay.
do resolutions one at a time.
Moved by Councillor McKelvey, seconded by Councillor Sisson, that council receives report 25002, Fire Department, January 2025, fire summaries information.
All those in favor? That is carried. On to February.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Not much to add to the February report. Things did slow down, but as council can also note, it was still higher than previous years. And we did increase our fire code inspections in February once things slowed down a little bit. Other than that, happy to take any questions.
Councillor Ingram?
Should have asked you before. Through the chair, how is our smoke alarm program going?
Through the chair, it's going quite well. We didn't have much in January for that, but certainly February and into March, we've had a number of requests, and I have done a number of inspections and installed a number of smoke alarms over the last couple of months.
I expect you'll be busy come summertime because it'll be full year coming a full year, right?
That is correct, yes. And I am also anticipating once we get more into the short-term rentals issue that with that it should increase the number as well. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, please read the resolution.
Moved by Counselor Slaney, seconded by Counselor Ingram, that council receives report 25004, Fire Department, February 2025 fire summary as information.
Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Chief. Ms. Doherty? We start with report 2504.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For you, for report 2504, PLZBA 2024-071. I don't have anything further to add unless council has any questions.
Are there any questions? No, I have. Okay,
So the first, through the chair, the first item on the agenda is the public meeting planning report for Carlton, PLZBA 2024-071. I didn't pre-publish this round.
okay. All right,
Okay.
all right. Are there any questions on this number one? Resolution.
Moved by Counselor Ingram, seconded by Counselor Slaney, that council receive report 2504 planning as information, and further that bylaw 2527 being a bylaw to approve the zoning bylaw amendment for land subject of PLZBA 2024-071 be referred to the bylaw section of the agenda.
All those in favor? That is carried. 2516.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, 2516 is for PLZB 2025-001 Walter, and I have nothing further to add as well, but happy to answer any questions from.
Are there any questions? Please read the resolution.
Moved by Counselor Ingram, seconded by Counselor Slaney, that council receive report 2516 planning as information, and further that bylaw 2533 being a bylaw to approve the zoning bylaw amendment for land subject of PLZBA 2025-001 be referred to the bylaw section of the agenda.
All those in favor? That is carried. 2517.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, report 2517 is for PLZBA 2024-077 Vario, and again, nothing further to add. Council has any
Are there any
questions.
questions? Councilor McKelvey.
I'm still trying to figure out how a storage unit with a screened in porch above it isn't being included. I can't figure it. This is part of the structure, so I'm just struggling with that. I mean, it's taking up more shoreline, very close to the lake.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, for clarification, not being included in the dwelling unit area or not being included in lot coverage?
Well, both, but
So through you, Mr. Mayor, it is included as part of the calculation for lot coverage.
Okay.
It's not included in the area for dwelling unit because our definition for dwelling unit specifically excludes certain components of buildings that might be attached to a dwelling as not being the dwelling unit size itself. So it goes towards the lot coverage, but it's not counted as the actual ground floor or gross floor area of the dwelling itself.
But it seems to me it's an expansion of the building footprint close to the lake, and we're always trying to make sure that, a legal non-conforming building doesn't expand that way. That's where I'm struggling with this.
Through Mr. Mayor, so yes, I suppose we are trying to ensure that buildings don't expand in that way. Generally speaking, for a building that is outside of the 15-meter setback or the 50-foot setback, we allow a lateral width of 30 meters. In this case, their lateral width, 30%, not 30 meters, 30%. In this case, although they're significantly closer to the shoreline, they did adhere to that limitation. So yes, it is an expansion of the lateral width, but they tried as best as possible, in my opinion, given the limitations on the property, to still respect as much of the components of the zoning bylaw that they could. And where this is for a screened porch that'll be on the deck rather than part of the dwelling as part of the foundation, I was able to support what they're requesting.
Please read the resolution.
Moved by Counselor Saney, seconded by Counselor Ingram, that council receive report 2517 planning as information, and further that bylaw 2534 being a bylaw to approve the zoning bylaw amendment for land subject of PL ZBA 2024077 be referred to the bylaw section of the agenda.
All those in favor? That is carried. 2515 here, planning update.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So for, pardon me, the monthly planning update, I don't have much to add. I'm happy to answer any questions if council has any. For the sort of the highlights, I've tried to sort of say where we've been, where we are, where we're going for each month within the year thus far. The only thing that I would want to add is just to let council know there certainly are quite a number of current development applications on the website online. We do keep the ones that have already been approved just in case people want to have that information. But we do have another 8 zoning bylaw amendments that will be coming forward, and I'm anticipating submission very shortly of another 4. So there will be a lot of public meetings in the near future.
Any questions? Councilor McKelvey.
It's part of your monthly report. I'm gonna try to bring this in, but docks on shoreline road allowance, as you know, I highlighted this question and I'm just wanting to make sure my recollection was when somebody applied for a short-term rental, if they had the structure down on the shoreline road allowance, that yes, we were going to give them some time by letting them do a license of occupation and then eventually buy that. And I'm fine on that. I distinctly recall us saying that doesn't apply to a dock. My understanding is we don't even issue permits for a dock, building permits.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we do not issue building permits for a dock.
So somebody could have a piece of property on a lake right now and put a dock in. But if they run a short-term rental business, you either have to remove the dock or go through a lot of expense and to get a license of occupation, which I believe they end up having to get a surveyor for to determine if it's on the shoreline road allowance. And can we just have this little, like, did I completely gap? My notes say we said no to docks. I'm just trying to figure out. Something didn't seem to follow through to me, but it's not a staff criticism. Don't. We had a resolution that was defeated, and I thought it was over that.
I recall there was something special about docks. Unfortunately, I can't recall if it was your recollection or if there was some legal issue that we had where we ended up including them.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I do recall the discussion about docks coming up in a couple manners. Originally the short-term rental bylaw required purchase of the shore road allowance regardless of whether it was an accessory structure or a dwelling. And I do recall the discussion being that for something like a dock that was rather excessive. And so the amendment came forward so that purchase is only required for a dwelling. For anyone who does not own the shore road allowance, they really do need, in order to get their short-term rental license, they really do need, regardless of what is or is not in the shoreline, have to retain the services of an Ontario land surveyor for us to be able to confirm what is in the shore road allowance. For the most part, we are not requiring them to get a full survey. They're able to have those services scoped to even just a letter, but nearly everyone who does not own the shore road allowance will have to get an OLS to be involved regardless of what's there. The way that the bylaw is currently written, any accessory structure or accessory building requires the license of occupation. It would have to have been specifically excluded in the STR bylaw if we did not want to include docks, and that was not the recommendation of staff at the time. I'd have to go back and review more carefully as to whether or not there was other direction from council that perhaps did not get incorporated into the bylaw.
Yeah, I think we need to look at it. And maybe you can come back at the next meeting and just sort of, we can have it as a point of discussion.
Sure. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So yes, I can review that with the clerk's department and then bring that back either at the next meeting or the next update.
Councilor McKelvey.
So if somebody has a piece of property on water and their primary building that they're going to be renting out for people to sleep in for a short-term rental is 100 feet back from the water, we're going to make a surveyor go out and confirm that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So in those cases, it might be more with respect to what other structures they have in the shore road allowance.
So if they don't have anything else other than a dock, we would make them go out.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no. So if it was only a dock, we know that, and they don't own the shore road allowance, we know that they don't, like the dock couldn't possibly be anywhere but on municipally owned lands. If that was the only structure, then no, they wouldn't need an OLS in that case. But in most cases, there's either some other structures or there's some question about whether or not the dwelling is within the shore road allowance. We do use discretion in terms of how far back the house is itself, whether or not they need like a full survey or more intensive services from an Ontario land surveyor. But in most cases, most people have more than just a dock. But yes, to Councillor McKelvey's point, if it was only a dock and we were sure of that, then they wouldn't need an OLS because there's no way it's anywhere but township land.
But they need a license of occupation.
Correct.
I would like to see this back at the next meeting if I could be so bold.
Well, I think we have to allow staff time to be able to look at all this. They have other things that they're working on. So I think we need it back as soon as we can.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think bringing it back at the April 24th meeting when I do an update would be achievable.
Okay, thank you.
Moved by Councillor Saney, seconded by Councillor Ingram, that council receive report 2515 planning March monthly planning update for information.
All those in favor? That is carried. 2518 pre-consultation reports.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So staff have reviewed two separate pre-consultations, both for proposed lot additions. For the first one, the property located at 1121 Keewaydon Road. This would increase conformity with the township zoning bylaws. The benefiting lands will increase frontage for a shoreline property, and staff are in favor of the lot addition, subject to conditions of the report. In the second pre-consultation, the property located at 4939 Glert Road. This will increase the size of what's already a large rural lot. However, it will serve to correct for the way that the lot is currently used. So this would generally transfer what is currently farm field to the property owners who are using it as farm field. And the lot that would be severed from, which is a rural residential lot, would still far exceed the minimum requirements for the rural residential zone. So there'd be no issues in the reduction.
Questions, Councilor McKelvey?
First off, I thought we had said we didn't want these combined on one report because it's really hard. So do you want to deal with the first one and then we'll go to the second one?
Sure.
But I thought we had said we wanted these separate reports so that we don't get into this. Which one are we talking about? And it's one resolution.
I think that's the clerk wants to.
So I think what we had decided is that we would actually pull them out in the description so that we understood what actual applications were before council and the public, which typically I would probably do in like a bullet format on the agenda, but it was still included on the agenda with the property address and the name for each of the applications.
Okay, so you have questions on which one, Councilor McKelvey?
I have questions. Well, actually, I'm wondering about the first one. Do they need a deeming bylaw or house?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not aware that they need a deeming bylaw.
This is the 1121 Keewaydon.
Yes. It just.
Through you, Mr. Mayor,
If it needs it, you'll deal with it.
through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, if it does need one, we would have to deal with it. I don't believe it does because this property has been previously subject of merging, and usually that doesn't happen if a deeming bylaw is required. So that's why I don't believe it would require one, but yes, it would be identified once it's being processed formally through the notice of decision.
And do you have questions?
I have, bear with me, I have a lot of questions for the very one. So this property was created by Severance in 2013. Trying to bring it up here. Again, I find it confusing with two on one, but it was created in 2013 by Severance. The planning report at the time, there was a lot of concern as to whether or not the severed and retained lots met the minimum lot standards, including setbacks. And there was a requirement that a written confirmation from an OLS indicating the distance from existing buildings to the newly created lot lines. So the smaller piece of property has an old farmhouse on it, and it was conditional on it being made sure that that line going along that boundary was drawn such that that house met the setback. So also it talked about a wetland evaluation, and it had this a little strange condition that they were either going to have to do a wetland evaluation, which, you know, blah, 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 what they had to have in that, or that they could enter into a severance agreement for both the severed and retained parcels. There was a bylaw authorizing the severance agreement, so that's the option that was taken. And when I look at all this, I can't figure out why they want to do this. And it's not open field that's being severed. It's definitely a large tree line. So I don't know why they want to do it or why we would be comfortable with them doing it. So that's some of my comments.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so I can add a little bit of information. So the lot line addition that is specifically to the, I guess, to the west, which is between the driveway and the tree line. So that would line up with a fence that's going through, like, adjacent to the tree line. It looks like it's through the tree line, but sort of adjacent to. That portion between the driveway and the tree line is based on the information from the property owners being used as part of the farm field. I recognize that the existing farmhouse currently meets the setback, and it would have a reduced setback. But given the conditions of the property, I don't see that as being overly offensive to the zoning bylaw, and a reduction in the setback would be supportable. The current zoning on the property does require that they do not get any closer to the wetland. So there was some assessment done that identified that there is a wetland, and they do have 120-meter restrictions for building. So all I can provide is that in this case, the property owners have requested this change so that the land that is being currently used by the farm property is essentially given to the farm property.
I'll get to you in a second. Just for clarification, this new lot or the small lot with the existing, what's the plan? Is there a plan for a new dwelling or?
Through Mr. Mayor, not to my knowledge.
Okay. Councillor Sisson?
I'd just like to point out a couple of things. First of all, it's not Minden Township, it's Snowden Township. And the Clear Road is not a township road, it's a county road. So there is two errors there on that.
My apologies.
So, and just one more clarification. So the zoning on the small lot would be what?
Through Mr. Mayor, so it's currently rural residential with an exception. So it would remain rural residential. There would be an exception for added to it for the reduced setback to the house and the other existing exceptions that are on the property, mostly to do with the wetland, would remain in place.
So is the rural residential, I get so mixed up with all these different categories, but is the 2 hectare the minimum lot size for the rural residential in this case?
Through Mr. Mayor, so 2 hectares is the minimum requirement for a rural zone. For a rural residential zone, the minimum requirement is 0.4 hectares or 4,000 square meters.
Right.
So quite a bit smaller.
Okay, all right, Councilor McKelvey?
So the rule of once a severance, always a severance, or once a consent, always a consent has been changed. But there's another application involved to take the old consent off. And
Through Mr. Mayor, so usually those are if a cancellation of consent is required because of a previous consent, that's usually handled through the county as part of their approval process.
so again, I'm not comfortable with this. I think there was good reason in 2013 why they wanted to make this setback the way it was. This is a small piece of property. I don't really want to make it smaller. But I also, if the council of this day wants to approve this, this would have to be conditional on previous consent canceling.
Through Mr. Mayor, it may be because it's a lot addition. I don't exactly, I don't personally usually have to get involved in those components. But yes, if it does require it, then usually that forms a condition of the decision. And we have seen that before.
And who decides that?
The county.
Sorry, go ahead.
Back to the beginning when I said I don't like these on one, this is going to be a need to change. Because personally, I can't support this all inclusive because I don't support the second one. So if we're going to do a resolution to support this, it'll need to be changed. Just want to put the clerk on notice. It'll need to be 2 separate resolutions. So.
Okay.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, if that is council's decision to separate the two, I'll just need a couple of minutes to craft something.
That's fine. I think we'll probably will. Begin crafting.
Okay.
So just bring me through the process again. We're in pre-consultation here. And so what are you looking for from us at this point?
Through Mr. Mayor, so either endorsement or not, as the case may be from council. If there are additional conditions that council would consider in order to allow them to be at the point of endorsement, we can certainly include those as well, but otherwise it would just be either endorsement or not. And then that information goes to both the applicant as well as the county.
Okay. I guess I understand a little bit of what they're trying to do here, but it is still a bit confusing. I think they're trying to, I assume they're trying to make the first lot, the small lot smaller so that the second lot has more, well, either pasture land or whatever available to it. Is this the same owner?
Through Mr. Mayor, it is. And to add to that, Mr. Mayor, if council feels like there's additional information that they could receive that might better clarify the intent and whether it would perhaps change the thoughts on the application, then we can go back to the applicant and request that prior to council making a decision. But that's only if council feels that there's additional information that could be received.
We're talking about an acre of land. basically.
Mhm.
Seems like a lot of trouble for an acre. Counselor McKelvey?
So the options today are to approve what's in front of us or not approve of it, or we could defer for further information.
Yes.
My thoughts are defer or like I will vote against it, but that's democracy. So, but I have no problem with deferring it to allow the applicant to provide further clarification. I personally, I'm not comfortable that it's further pasture land. They have 84 acres. So
About a quarter cow. I think that's what. Okay, I would also support deferring to get a little more clarification before I would feel comfortable approving this.
So the first one I'm understand is fine as presented, with the removal of the second property. And then we'll carry on to the second resolution, okay?
Okay.
Just so we keep to the proper procedure. So that would be Counselor Johansson and Counselor Saney. Are you amenable to that change in the first resolution? Moved by Counselor Johansson, seconded by Counselor Saney, that council receive report 2518 planning as information, and further that council recommends approval of the application to the County of Halliburton Land Division, subject to the conditions outlined in the pre-consultation report for the identified land as 1121 Keewaydon Road, Roseboom.
All those in favor? That is carried.
And before I read the second, I just need a mover and a seconder, but the resolution has been drafted as follows, just before we do that. That council defers the application for pre-consultation report, lands identified as 4951 Galert Road, Barry. Is that the motion that's on the floor?
Well, I think we're deferring and requesting further information.
Okay, and I'll just say and further that staff report back with further information.
So Council McKelvey and Deputy Mayor Shell, and we're in seconder. Correct.
Moved by Counselor McKelvey, seconded by Deputy Mayor Shell, that council defers the application for a pre-consultation report for lands identified as 4951 Galert Road, Barry, and that staff report back with further information.
All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Amanda. Ms. Lonergan, please come tell us how we're all getting rich.
Good morning, Mayor Carter and Council. This is an annual report that is required by the province for remuneration for council and committees.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, please read. Oh, oops, sorry, Councillor Saney.
Yeah, I just want to point out that I appreciate having that extra column there, the external board expenses and honorariums. And just to point out that that is because of my Roma participation in Rural Ontario Municipalities Association and the support of council to be there. So that is where that money comes from, it doesn't come from the municipality. Thank you.
So does the money come through the municipality? Is that how it works or?
Through the chair, we get a report each year from Roma and then that is added into the report.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, please read the resolution.
Moved by Counselor Hennessy, seconded by Counselor Sani, that council receives report 2510 Finance 2024 Council and Committee Remuneration as information, and that council approves the 2024 Council and Committee Remuneration as presented by the Director of Finance Treasurer.
All those in favor? That is carried.
Thank you.
Okay. Bylaws.
Moved by Counselor Johansson, seconded by Counselor Sani. Be it resolved that the following bylaws be received, read a first time, considered, read a second and third time, and finally passed with the corporate seal affixed. Bylaw 2527, PL ZBA 2024-071. Bylaw 2533, PL ZBA 2025-001. And Bylaw 2534, PL ZBA 2024-077.
All those in favor? It's carried. Confirming bylaw.
Moved by Counselor Sani, seconded by Counselor Johansson, that bylaw 2536, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council held during its meeting of March 27th, 2025, be received, read a first time, considered, read a second and third time, and finally passed with the corporate seal affixed.
All those in favor? That is carried. Adjournment.
Moved by Counselor Johansson, seconded by Counselor Sani. Be it resolved that the March 27th, 2025 regular council meeting is hereby adjourned at 10:51 a.m.
All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, everyone. The next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, April the 10th, 2025 at 9 a.m. Stay safe and have fun.